All right, hello everyone. This is Rabbi Bolton speaking to you. Today is Tuesday, third day of the Hebrew week, and I already put up last year's reading from the Chumash, but I'll just say a small sikha from the Rebbe now to add on. Interesting thing about this week, we learn about the 10th and final test of Abraham. That God gave Abraham, namely taking his son and sacrificing him. This is a pretty weird story in Judaism, but it's very essential to Judaism. In some ways, it's the most essential of Judaism. This is the 10th and the final test that God gave to Abraham, and that was the basis of Judaism. If Abraham would not have gone through these tests, as Judaism would not be what it is now. Judaism would be like every other religion. This is what separated Judaism from every other religion. One thing we learned about Abraham was that right in the beginning of his life, he broke the idols of his father. His father was an idol manufacturer. He manufactured idols, IDOL, for idolatry. And Abraham gave his father the proper respect, and he thought, there must be something to this. But then he started thinking, maybe I see my father's bowing down to these idols, so we see there must be something greater than my father. So I have to give honor to my father, but my father himself is saying that these gods are greater than him. So for sure I should give honor to these gods. What type of gods? Well, there's good luck and fortune and health and wealth, and the future is uncertain. And so if we can do something to sort of solidify the future, as why not? So everybody had their own sort of way of doing it. And of course, then there's the big future is after you die. You're only here for a certain amount of time. And then that's really like looming up, who knows what's going to happen after, they put you in the ground. So people understandably wanted to, make some sort of a security for the future. So they worship their idols, whether we're talking about the immediate future or the ultimate future. And Abraham, he also worshiped idols, but he started to realize that one second, if I'm not my father worships something higher than him, so let's see what's higher than him. So we would worship the sun, the moon. Then he would start to think, Abraham started to think, maybe there's something higher than the father and the moon. Maybe there's something more than the sun and the moon. Maybe there's something more real and more worthy of my devotion, and that'll secure me in my future, etc. Something that's greater. So it says in the Midrash that he will worship the sun, and then he saw the sun set, the moon ruled, and then the wind and the sky and the sun, and then there's fire and water. So finally he came to the conclusion maybe there's a creator for this whole entire business. And he was the first person to really recognize the creator in such a way that it obligated that he totally changed his life. Namely what? To not think about himself. If I'm thinking about worshiping these idols only for what they're going to give me, so ultimately what I'm really doing is for myself. I'm like the most valuable thing. I'm the big picture, and within this picture are what can I do in order to get the most security or benefit or profit or whatever from life. So he came to realize that physical pleasures, that's not where it's at. We got spiritual. And then he started realizing that there's higher levels of spiritual. So finally, Abraham started to realize, hey, listen, maybe this whole game plan is wrong. I'm out for myself. I'm trying to find out what's the best for me. Maybe the reason I'm created is in order to be part of a bigger picture, not for me, not what I'm going to get, but what the creator is going to get. And at that point, at some point, when he was 75 years old, so God spoke to Abraham and he told him, Abraham, you're on the right track. Up to now, you've been elevating yourself spiritually and spiritually. And now I'm going to give you a real path. You want to do what's true because it's true. So what's true is you got the point, not to think about yourself at all, not to think about what am I going to get, how am I going to go to heaven, but to think about the truth, to do what is true because it's true. Are you willing, Abraham? 100% I'm willing. God said, that's what you think. Watch this. So God started to give Abraham all these terrible tests, which went against the grain of any normal person. But any normal person would say, that's it. I'm getting out. Stop the car. I'm getting out. We're going to the wrong. Where are you taking me? No. I'm not for me. Right? I'm finished with these tests. I don't want these tests. As we said before, these were tests that seemingly proved that if you serve the Creator, you're going to really lose out. You say you're putting your chips on the wrong number over here. God promised Abraham, you leave your country, I'll make you a great person. Go to the promised land. Abraham left, went to the promised land. There wasn't even anything to eat. He went down to Egypt and his wife was kidnapped. And one thing after another. Finally, it comes down to the end that Abraham said, okay, listen, God, listen, I did everything you wanted. I circumcised myself, 99 years old. All I want is someone to carry out my discovery of serving God totally selflessly. And God said, oh, don't worry about it. You're going to have a son. Right? You circumcise yourself, here it goes. And that's how this week's Torah portion opens up. So he has this son, beautiful son, Isaac. And there's a few more tests on the way. Circumcising himself was one of them. And finally, God said, okay, you got everything you asked for. You've served me 137 years. Yitzchak was 137 years at the time that Abraham took him to sacrifice. Abraham, of course, was 137. So God said, you have a beautiful son. You're on the way. You're going to fix up the whole world. Now I'm going to fulfill my promise to you, Abraham, that you're going to have children like the stars in the sky and the sea, and sand on the sea. You have Yitzchak, and he's walking in your way, and he's totally devoted to me, self-sacrificing. Just one more thing. Before he gets married and has all these children, take him and kill him. That's it. That's the called the Akedah. Akedah means the binding. God said that it's called the binding because it ended up that all Abraham did was bind his son. In the end, he didn't kill him. An angel came down and stopped him. Okay, so the Lubavitcher Rebbe asks, what is the purpose of this? What could possibly be the logic, the motivation between God and doing such a great thing? And why does a weird thing to kill his own son? Why did he ask Abraham to do that? And it says in the Tanya, it's in the 21st chapter of what's called Igros Kodesh, that the main thing of this test was not that Abraham did it, but how he did it. He did it with great alacrity, quickness, which shows on joy. He was actually happy to do what God wants, which that's pretty good, being happy to it, but not at somebody else's expense. And not only that, why did Isaac go along? What did he go along for? I mean, God spoke to Abraham. He didn't speak to Yitzchak. So I want to add on a thought of mine in the end, but let me just say what the Rebbe says. The point of this, the Akedah, was a very shocking point. And it's the whole essence of what Judaism is. If you examine this command of God and of to take his son and kill him, there was no angle, no way you can look at this that can suggest in the vaguest way that Abraham had anything to gain. Now, I'm adding some stuff in my own, but there's a very famous, all these psychiatrists, like Freud and all these other people. They said that anything that a person does, everything that a person does can be reduced to some sort of a selfish complex or desire or motivation. Peer pressure, what is it, the inferiority complex to overcome it, what's it called, the Oedipus complex, something. There's no such thing as doing something for the truth, only because it's true. You're always going to have some sort of a selfishness in it everywhere. So said Freud and all these other psychiatrists and psychologists and experts and geniuses and etc. And they're all wrong. They're wrong. They're 100% wrong. Why are they wrong? Who says they're wrong? I mean, they all agree these people are genius people and they have a lot of experience. Abraham said they're wrong. Judaism says they're wrong. All the other religions in the world say they're right. Man is essentially selfish. Man wants to go to heaven. He's worried about going to hell. Reward and punishment is the motivation of man. And Judaism says no way. The motivation of man is truth. People want to do the truth because it's truth. How is this so? What is the truth? No, what's wrong with being selfish? So Judaism comes along and says like this, listen, everybody, you, yourself, your selfishness, all of your desires, everything you are is a creation of God. There's nothing except for God. That's the motto of Judaism. Listen, Jews, God is one. When we say God is one means there's nothing except for God. God is creating everything constantly for nothing, from nothing. There's no existence except for him. The world, we've talked about this a lot of times. This is a very good, positive, wonderful, philosophical idea, and it explains a lot of things. The God creates everything. God creates what is existence, what is this. Everything is fine until it gets to me. I'm willing to say that God creates you, God creates everything. Well, God creates me every minute means that, I have to reciprocate somehow or other. It means that I don't really, truly exist. In other words, there's something above and beyond me right now. Not just like my parents created me, such and such number of years ago. By the way, tonight is my birthday. Anybody want to celebrate with me? Tonight is my birthday. Tomorrow we'll make a l'chaim or something. So every moment is our birthday. God is creating us, but he's creating us from nothing. Absolutely nothing. And we're being created in us from nothing. And God wants us to recognize this and to act accordingly. How do you act accordingly? Not the way you would think about it, but the way the Torah says. The Torah is telling you should get married, have a family, have a job, have money, etc. But everything that you do has to be the way that God wants you to do it. Want to make music. You have to find out what's permissible, what's not permissible. You want to make music. You want to entertain. Whatever you want, you be happy. You have to be happy. Being happy is essential. So Abraham, he went through this test to show that that it's possible, that it's the test. It's the truth. This is the message of Judaism to the world. You are being created by the Creator, and consequently, you should do what the Creator says and not think about the results. And in fact, this is a very major point of life. If you're worried about results, no matter what, right? Of course, you should plan. You can't just go and be a doctor without going to university. You have to plan. But if you're over worried about the results, then you become a paranoid, depressed, nervous, anxious, miserable person. because you're trying to conquer the future, and the future is not in our hands. The future is only in God's hands. The present is in our hands. Now, what should we do with the present? Number one, don't worry about the future. Number two, do what God wants. A lot of times you don't know what God wants. Therefore, you should have friends, you should have advisors. You can't just make it up on your own. That's what all Christianity is. Some guy came along and made it up on his own what God wants. Right? Well, you can get in big trouble that way. You can be very successful, but on the other hand, it's totally wrong. Abraham was totally right. Why? And that's why it says in the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, it doesn't mention heaven or hell at all, because the Jewish religion does believe in heaven and hell, but it's totally not important. It's in God's hands. It's in the future, and the future is in God's hands. It's not your business. Your business is to do the truth right now, as much as you can. What if you mess it up? So, okay, that was in the past. The future you can always fix up. How you fix it up? Okay, according to the wrong deed you did and the motivation you had for doing it and the attitude, that's how you can fix it up. But every sin is fixable. Of course, if you kill people, you can't bring them back to life. So act accordingly. But that's the point of this whole thing of taking his son to sacrifice. There was absolutely no angle, no possible way you can look at it and think, well, the reason he did it because he had this to benefit. Maybe, you know what? Maybe he did it because he was going to go to heaven. What do you want to tell me? That Judaism says kill your children so you'll go to heaven? I mean, that is incredibly cruel and selfish. That's the message of Abraham. Do anything you can to get into heaven, even kill your children. Of course not. God forbid. So, okay, maybe he did it because he was afraid. What would he have to lose? The only thing that was valuable to him was Yitzchak, his son, and he was killing him with his own 2 hands. Maybe he did it because he was crazy. Maybe he was out of his mind. Says if he was out of his mind, then why did Isaac go along with him? Isaac would have sensed it in a second. Isaac understood that his father was totally sane, and that that type of happiness that his father had could not come from insanity. It can only come from doing something that's genuine. So why did Abraham do it? There was no egotistical motivation, even spiritual motivation at all. He had nothing to gain. Why? He did it because God wanted. And that's our point, to do what God wants. And when you do what God wants, it relieves you. You become happy. Of course, you have to know what God wants. That's why the Torah is here. That's why the great rabbis are here, to explain what the Torah says. 7 Noahide commandments, etc. So, my friends, that is what we can learn from. And an interesting thing that I heard, even though I did not verify this, but I heard it from a very, reliable source, that a long time ago in the 50s, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he became the 7th Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1950. Shortly thereafter, and he immediately said, we have to spread Judaism, and we especially have to save the new generation. They should try to stop as much as possible, or stop totally if we can, intermarriage, and give proper Jewish education. The ignorance and intermarriage are our big enemies. And so the Rebbe said, what we should do is let's make children's programs. Make children's programs, they should be fun, should be enjoyable, but they have to be Jewish, and give them genuine Jewish ideas. Good. So there was a lot of very positive response, and a lot of children, non-religious Jewish children, agreed to come to this summer camp or summer program, what it was. So they said, listen, let's make a little prayer book in the morning, to pray to God, give thanks to God. It's a pretty good thing. God creates our eyes. Let's give thanks to God. He creates our eyes. One thing. So they asked the Rebbe what they should put in. So the Rebbe said, listen, if it's possible, I don't know if they did it in the end, if it's possible to put in the story of the Akedah, of Abraham binding up Yitzchak to kill him, sacrifice it. And in fact, in every genuine Jewish Siddur prayer book, this is right in the beginning, somewhere right in the beginning. After the morning blessings, before the morning blessings, but it's there. Every genuine Jewish prayer book, the story of the Akedah is there. And so the Rebbe asked if you could do for children, these children, but the children are going to read such a story. It's a shocking story. This is what you want, that your fathers are going to take us and kill us. But no, the Rebbe knew that is the essence of Judaism. It's not only nothing to be ashamed of, but it's something to advertise. The bravery and the joy of Abraham and the bravery and the joy of Yitzchak that he went along with him is the basis of Judaism because it came out okay in the end, right? And we are products of that. And our attitude as self-sacrificing Jews for the truth and not to be ashamed of our Judaism or to be ashamed of the Torah or the commandments or try to appeal to peer pressure at the cost of the truth as the power to defy that and to transform it to genuine happy Judaism. We got that from the Akedah, from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to do the truth only because it's the truth and not be afraid of anything that the future threatens us with. Have a good day with Moshiach now, and hope to see you all tomorrow, 8:15 in the morning for Chassidut. Thank you.